I got some notes here, but that's it.
All right. Okay, so a conspicuous lack of one of our guests. So we're still going to try to make this happen. William Albrecht said that he's having some minor technical issues, and he will try to join us late. So we're just going to tap dance, Steve and I, and talk out the sides of our neck about Catholicism until he shows up. If he doesn't show up, also in the live chat, please feel free to ask any Catholicism related questions. I know there's a huge 400-pound gorilla in the room right now. The fact that Steve and I are on the same show together. Hey, that's not what this show is about, though. That might come
I
up
thought you were
later.
accusing me
It
of
might
being
not.
fat. I'm like, I've been on a diet. I'm under 200 now. Okay, I'm not. I was never close to 400.
Oh, 400-pound gorilla. Right. So in the live chat, try to keep it like, I don't know, at least religion related, hopefully Catholicism related. Drama stuff. There's enough on other channels. I really don't want to perpetuate bullshit drama. Let's just say Steve and I are back now. Whatever happened, he's part of my life again. And if you have a problem with that, fucking live your life. I'll live mine. Okay. Um, I got 8 things. Like, these were conversation starters that I was planning on throwing out at you guys in case you didn't have. Hey, Titan Uranus and Tony. So in case you guys didn't have anything, just to get the ball rolling. So take your pick, or I can just go down the list. See, this is what I was going to ask William.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Look, I know so very little about the Catholic Church
Oh, the
tenets and
first
things of
one.
that nature. I
The
mean,
first one is, why do they pray to patron saints? There's that literally thousands of patron saints. Why do they pray to each? Like, I'm about to travel, so I need to pray to whatever Saint Michael or whoever it is. He's the patron saint of travelers. Why do you got to pray to a dead saint when you can just go straight to the source?
yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know why
what's
they
that
need.
saint going to do for you?
Well, I don't know why they need some kind of intercession. I mean, what would be the point if God is all omnipotent, all knowing, and obviously kind of knows what's going on and it knows your prayer is even going to be? What does they need a special advocate for that is deemed by papal decree that the church says, okay, hey, this is the one saint you need to pray to, and then he's going to go talk to God on your behalf? It seems not efficient. It seems unneeded to me as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I said, look, I will fully admit I am not versed in Catholicism at all. I remember the only single experience I even had with the Catholic Church was when I had been invited to go to a mass, right? And
Mhm.
I went, and I remember very distinctly. I was not really theist at the time. I was probably involved with the Mormon Church, but not to any great depths. But I was like, okay, sure, we'll go. And I got to tell you, when I was at this mass, I had the most just. I'm not going to use the word evil feeling, but it was just sadness and just not. It was like, this is, oh, I don't like this. It was uncomfortable, and then I couldn't
Uncomfortable.
figure out when to stand or when to sit. All I saw was people standing. They'd say something. They'd sit. They'd stand. They'd sit. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Are we at PT? Are we doing physical therapy? Are we exercising? I don't know what the hell is going on. I was so out of place, and I was like, never again. Never again. I was like, this is not for me. If this is the correct church on earth, if this is God's religion, if this is the absolute truth, yeah, I can't do this. I just can't do it. So I never been back to a Catholic church. So just to let people know, when I was talking this guy I was supposed to talk to, I'm not going in here and saying that I know crap about Catholicism. I know very, very little, but I guess I know the basic stuff like this. How they do have intercessory prayer, but again, I agree with you. Why?
I know enough Catholics. My first cousin and I grew up together. She's been Catholic her whole life, so I probably know a little bit. I was planning on maybe trying to help carry this conversation if I'm going to be on your show in a couple of days. That's a 2-on-2 debate, and I was hoping in return you carry me on that one. But in boot camp,
I got that one.
in boot camp, I would volunteer like every Sunday. Catholics raise your hand, Mormons raise your hand, right? And they would march you off to whatever service that you need to go to on Sundays. And I would sometimes just raise it was Ash Wednesday. I remember I raised my hand. I was Catholic that day. So just to get the hell out of the squad bay for an hour or two, right?
Everybody did that.
And I went
so
to
many
the
people did
mass
that. Yep.
and got the little cross on the head. And it was just, it was like a show. It was like a concert. I mean, it was it it was entertaining to me. And they come in with that incense, and the place smells good, and uh,
It's a show, and I think it was
yeah,
designed to be a show. I think it was meant to be something people wanted to have as more of a spectacle. Yeah, I remember in boot camp. I was one when I went into boot camp. I had just been baptized when I was 17, LDS, and then I had joined the military. So I went in the Navy at 17 in October of it was October 1987, and I remember that where they would have on Sundays. You could go to whatever church you wanted to go, whatever they had available, and they did have a Mormon church there. And I remember people actually did go to church, most because if you didn't go to church, what happens? You end up doing field day, which is you clean the barracks, and you end up clean the toilets and the showers, and it's like, okay, would I rather go sit in a pew and listen to a boring thing for 3 hours, or clean toilets? Now I'd probably rather clean the toilets, but whatever. I mean, back then it was just to get out of the barracks, right?
and when I went back to boot camp as a drill instructor this time, so I'm the one saying, okay, marching them down. And here's my Mormon story. Mormons, raise your hand. And there was like 2 of them out of 92 recruits. I'd march them down,
Well, they usually come in
and
pairs.
then I'd go get them, right? But then next week, it was like 4 of them. Then it was 8 of them. Then it was half my platoon one Sunday. I was
They're
like,
all
okay.
converted, yeah.
So
They all
I was
converted,
thinking, man,
whatever.
they got a good program going on, right? So when I march them down, instead of marching back to the squad bay and then come getting them later, I waited around until they went into their service. And then I snuck in. And sure enough, I'm dating myself. This is back when there was payphones, but they were all lined up at a payphone that they found, like an unrestricted payphone. They're not supposed to make phone calls home. And they were all lined up trying to call home. And when they saw me, they scattered like cockroaches in the sunlight. So that's why they were.
The
Anyway.
best would be if you go to the synagogue and you're Jewish on Saturday, and then on Sunday you have Catholic mass in the morning. You go to the Mormon afternoon thing, then you go to some Protestant thing,
Yeah.
at evening, and then Catholic mass at night, and you're out of the barracks all day long, all weekend.
You technically can. Some recruits do that because Saturday morning is the Wiccan. It's held outdoors in the martial arts wood chip pit.
Yeah, they didn't
And
have
then
that
you
when I
can
was
go
in.
to Seventh Day Adventist right after that. Then you can do all the Sunday ones. Yeah, you can stay out of the squad bay.
Yeah, they didn't have it. I don't think Wiccan was recognized when I was there.
It was 99 to 2003. And there are no Wiccan chaplains, so it was all lay read,
Yeah,
whoever's
I
the
got
most.
it in
Yeah.
83, so yeah.
I think there's only Islam, Protestantism, Catholicism. Now, there was talk I saw on, I think, the Friendly Atheist. They were talking about introducing secular chaplains in the military. How cool would that be?
Well, they've had secular, but the problem is that
What?
yeah, they have secular chaplains. They've had them for a few years now. But the thing is a chaplain's supposed to be being versed in multiple denominations. They're supposed to be able to cater to the spiritual needs or non-spiritual needs of the people in the military, right? So even though you might have a chaplain of a specific denomination or faith, they are supposed to be able to cater to anybody's needs, right? And they're not really there to proselytize or to change people's religions. They're there to cater to people that say they have a particular faith, and they're able to counsel them and have the religious practices and the liturgy or whatever they're however they want to worship, right? And so they're kind of a person who is in the church. There's be a person in the Navy who's a chaplain. They go through a long, rigorous training. You require a bachelor's degree for that. It is actually something that they have to go study to become a chaplain.
Yeah. Oh, to be a commissioned officer, you need a 4-year degree. But do
Yeah,
chaplains need a pertinent? Does it have to be specific? Something
chaplains have
relatable.
to have religious studies, if I'm not mistaken.
Religious study, something like divinity or theology.
Correct. Yeah. Again, they have to
Okay.
be familiar with all the different practices to cater to a lot of diversification of needs for the service members, and that includes
Because
nowadays atheism.
yeah, to be an infantry officer, even you don't need military studies. You don't need anything related. It could be physical education. It could be history. All you need is a sheepskin to go to
Yeah, I mean,
OCS.
well, yeah, I mean, to become an officer, you need some degree. Now, most of them obviously wouldn't be more in field. Like I was in the nuke program, so those officers that were the nukes, they're going to have some kind of bachelor's degree in physics, engineering, mathematics, of those kinds. I don't know how it would work if you had an officer that was a nuke officer that had a degree in history. It doesn't happen.
People don't know that the nuke school in the Navy is the hands down, undebatable, the academically hardest school in the military. Academically,
it sucked. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sucked. No question about that.
I was a language guy, and Spanish was super easy, but I mean, Arabic is a 1.5 year long school. You're like almost an E5 by the time you get out of A school. And it's a serious category 5 language. So that's probably
I
up
was
there.
E4 after A school, E5 pretty quickly, E6 just frocked E6 just before I got out. So
If
pretty good.
If anyone in the live chat has a question for Steve or me or both of us, and William should be getting here soon. He's having some technical issues. Feel free to post it, and we'll try to field it. We're not Catholicism masters. The second one, the Pope. Okay, there's 2 popes. One's inactive right now. Francis is the current pope. Popes are still considered to be infallible. Yes. So anything they
No.
say, it's automatic dogma, scripture.
Not from what I understand. From what I understand, a pope is only infallible when they're speaking with papal infallibility. So when they're speaking from the papacy, where they're saying, hey, no, this is from God. This is something that God has told me that I'm supposed to put out. They're speaking with authority. Then it becomes, then they have the authority to do so. If a pope just says, hey, look, it's going to rain tomorrow, and it doesn't rain, there's nothing attached to it. So it's not anything they say. It has to have papal authority. Yeah.
Like, what is that when he's making official statements, like from the podium?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, even then, I think they have to declare it as something that is from a divine nature. I mean, because a lot of times, popes come out and they'll say things all the time relating to secular stuff. But as far as like any kind of dealings with the church that they say this is like divine revelation, that becomes infallible. Which doesn't make any sense to me, because if you have a God that is all divine and perfect and all these omni traits, no matter how you want to categorize the omni traits or to what degree you have them, it still makes no sense to me to say that you have inerrancy or infallibility through a single person or any people, because people are fallible, and therefore anytime you introduce the ability to have fallibility, you have a non-inerrant system. It's just you can't have a non-fallible system once humans are introduced. It's not possible. So, and this, by the way, you know language. So even with language, you're going to have some communication issues. There's going to be fallibility there.
Yeah, there might be mistranslations, slight mistranslations, but there's a whole Vatican City has a whole team of they, as soon as he says it, it goes out in every language there is. Hello to Jenna Miyu and Tony Designs. I already said Spooky Bed Hair and Benghazi. Benghazi. Okay. So yeah, ask a question in the live chat. But when Frankie said atheists go to heaven, and like the next day the Vatican put out an official press release saying you took that out of context, or that's not really so true.
Well, I get what he was saying. I mean, okay, these are my understandings. From what I understand, the Catholic Church believes that you need the church to go to heaven, but you're not condemned if you don't accept the Catholic Church. So in other words, you can be a member of a different church, believe in God, have salvational and stereotypic things that will get you into heaven, but you still need Jesus, you still need the Catholic Church, but you don't have to be an active participant in the Catholic Church to be saved, is what I understand.
Holy water. This is what I wanted to ask William, because when the pandemic hit, holy water was not a thing. If you did go to church, it was of course social distancing, total mask up, and there was no when you grab a little holy water before you go hit the pews, and those were dried up. So how important is holy water, and is it really? I know it's blessed by a priest, but I mean, is there a scientific way to measure that? I guess supernatural is. Yeah.
What would you be testing for? I mean, first of all, science is beholden to methodological naturalism, right? So you can't test any supernatural claim, because what would you be testing for? You can't even conclude supernaturalism. It has to stay within the dominion of naturalism, which makes science powerful, because you cannot just sit there and postulate things that, I mean, there's an infinite number of postulates you can have. Say, oh, leprechauns did it, fairies did it, whatever. And I hate using the whole goblin, fairy type things, because they get overused, and people kind of
Don't
use them
say goblin.
pejoratively.
You'll start the
Yeah.
laugh.
but
Sorry,
the point
I'm sorry.
fine. But the point being is that science doesn't allow even the postulation of these things, because you could sit there and say, look, my hypothesis is that some invisible space being that came around and supernaturally did this or that. I mean, it's non-productive, because it doesn't have any falsification criteria, which again isn't really huge in science as much as people think it is. But it's to a degree is you're not going to sit there and posit an infinite amount of different things that are just mere or bare possibilities. So science is beholden to this methodological naturalism. So when you have something like holy water, what are you testing for? What property does it have? If you had two vials, one full of water, one full of holy water that's been blessed, there's nothing distinguishes between them. There's no test that you could do to say one is holy and one is not. I mean, what are you going to do? Throw it on a vampire? Maybe that's about it. That's the only what test are you going to be able to do? I mean,
yeah. Well, you can't test for the supernatural. Science only tests for the natural.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But Benghazi took the words out of my mouth. That's I was going to bring that up later. They do in my in that 89 part series I did, the video series that took 8 months to do. We touched on it, how there has often, like more often than not, laboratory tests on holy water conclude that it's filthy. It's filthy water. It could have fecal matter in it, bacteria.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't think Catholics will claim, and again, we don't have one here because he didn't show up. But I don't think they'll claim that because a vial of water has been blessed by a priest, all of a sudden becomes pure, water, and there's no impurities, there's no bacteria, there's no fecal matter. I don't think they claim that it becomes like absolutely pure. Matter of fact, I don't know the point of the holy water. I mean, what is it supposed to accomplish? What does it do for you?
Well, the word Christ is a title. You probably know that. And
I know.
it means
Christ's title. Yeah.
Yeah, it means it literally means to be anointed with a dark olive oil.
Yeah.
A dark olive oil.
Consecrated. Yeah, I mean, Mormons have the same thing. That's why they use oil. They'll actually bless oil, not water.
So apparently anything blessed, oil or water, it could be symbolic only, and I would be cool with that if it's just symbolic of the woman that washed in Jesus's feet when he post resurrection. If it's symbolic, just to remind you of what you're supposed to be thinking, cool. But if it has literal magical properties, you always hear these stories like over in Europe, like I think it's France, that famous fountain that everyone goes to and jumps in, and there's a waiting list of how long to get there. What was it?
Fountains of Versailles?
Maybe. I actually think there's more than one, but there's a really famous one, and it's a waiting list. And you get there, and people swear up and down that they jump out of the wheelchairs and all such.
Yeah, well, look at the water where he was baptized. That people wait for that. It's muddy, nasty. Water. It's nasty.
Well, the spot where they do the baptisms now in the Jordan River is not. It's been changed like 3 times since Israel became its own country.
Of course it has. Of course it has. They just move it along. It's like it happens somewhere around here.
They think they know where it was, and that's in contested area right now. It's like basically a war zone. There's no getting baptized in the part where they actually think in the Jordan.
Yeah. But I mean, symbolic, that's fine too. But I mean, I don't think they take it symbolic, because when it comes to like the transubstantiation of eating the wafer, they literally believe that there is a transubstantiation that becomes the body of the Christ, even though it's something that they're not going to test for to say, oh, this is human flesh. I mean, it's one of those things it's human flesh, but it's not human flesh. It's kind of a contradiction to me. I've never understood transubstantiation at all. Matter of fact, a lot of things about the Catholic Church, I just don't understand conceptually or logically. The transubstantiation.
Can you see my notes, Steve? Because that is literally the next thing on my list. Transubstantiation.
It's Catholic stuff, so it kind of goes along with it.
That's spooky. All right. Hello, Godless Granny and Beck and Simos. Awesome. Yeah, transubstantiation. Now, this is the one. My show. I don't try to get anyone in gotcha questions, and I always try to give you a way out. And I don't like putting people on the spot, and I like them to be prepared for what I'm going to ask them. But that one seems like the most ridiculous doctrine tenet in Catholicism, and they can't. They've painted themselves into a corner because there's no getting out of it now. You can't.
Yeah, it's doctrine. It's complete
Right.
doctrine to them.
If they could find a way out of it, they would totally, like the Mormons did with blacks being able to be elders in the church, or all their old racism.
Do you know that the Mormons do have they do have bread and water that they have for sacrament, right? You know that Mormons do that, right?
Well, it's all very Catholic, and
they pass around a plate that has bread that has been blessed.
Yeah.
And then they have the water with the water cups. But they at least recognize it's symbolic. As far as I know, they recognize it's symbolic. They don't actually think that the water turns into the blood of Christ,
Well, Smith and Young and all of them, they borrowed from so many different faiths to build that monstrosity. And a lot of it was Catholic, and there's Freemasons and the whole Mason stuff, that they stole from too. Their secret handshakes and the stuff they do behind the curtain.
Can you name one religion that didn't borrow from another?
That just sprang up organically.
I can't.
That just sprang up organically.
Yeah, even Scientology borrows, from certain things. Every religion I can think of has to have some kind of borrowing from something that preceded it.
Hinduism, is there?
I mean, even there's a religion called the Church of the I think it's called the Church of the was it Ever Living Water? Is that what it's called? But it's based upon Robert A. Heinlein's book, A Stranger in a Strange Land, which, by the way, is one of the best books ever. I read that book in high school and I just fell in love with it. It is like literally a masterpiece. If you ever get a chance and you just have a bored night, go read Stranger in a Strange Land, hard copy. I mean, you read it online is fine, I guess. But if you get a hard copy of it, it is just so brilliantly written. It's disgusting. But there's an actual church that exists because of that book. But I mean, then it still has to be predicated on something, which is the book. But there's obviously religious things they bring in from other churches, So I don't think there's anything as a sua sponte, or de novo religion that just comes up out of nowhere that's not predicated upon anything else.
Well, nowadays, it's all based on something else. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
But like Hinduism, even then, it probably sprang up from older, regional type cults.
By the way, that doesn't necessarily mean, because I see this come around every Christmas. You get, a couple of these just low. I just call them New Atheist TM, but it's basically low level atheists like Goddess Mom and Goddess Liz, and it's for some reason anybody with the name Goddess in them. No, that's not true. There's a few people with Goddess in their name that I actually like a lot, like
Godless Granny. That's one of my favorite channels.
I don't know her very well. But
you would not believe how much time she puts into each episode. Just the script. The script is so tight. I love that show.
I'll check it out. But
hold on real quick, Steve. There's a question in the live chat. That fountain, you said it was Lourdes?
There's Lourdes too. Yeah.
Lourdes. And then Tom Jump asked,
Lourdes.
Are you doing this is slightly off topic. Are you going to be doing what's your main format since you got your channel back? Is it going to be be debates?
Yeah, we got a pretty substantial debate on the 14th. So what is that? 2 days from now. That's going to be Craig Reed, the guy from the Golden podcast. What is it? Josiah or Joseph? What's his last name? Brister. Yeah, Joseph Brister. Craig Reed. You, me, coming up. Oh no, that's
is that Monday?
That's on the 6th. What is on the 16th? I don't know. We got two major debates coming up. Which one are we doing? We're doing
14th. I thought we were Monday.
Yeah, we're Monday. So it's you, me, Craig Reed, and Josh Brister, if I remember correctly. On that
I've only done one debate, Steve, and I got my ass kicked. It was over the Trinity, and I literally suck at formal debate. So I'm going to.
This is going to be on This is going to be on they want to argue that atheism is illogical.
Then it's going to get really heavily into philosophy, and I'm going to be just speaking colloquially like a jerk.
I think it will be, because I know Craig Reed knows his stuff. I mean, he's a very smart guy. But then again, I don't know what they're going to be arguing, because it just seems by prima facie that anything can be rational if you have enough justification for it. I mean, it really, justification conditions are what these things are predicated upon to determine if something's rational or not. So say atheism is irrational by whatever reason. It makes no sense to me. I don't know why anybody would just by fiat say that. And if somebody says, look, I'm an atheist because leprechauns have told me there is no God, you don't have a sufficient justification for it. You are irrationally taking a position of atheism, right? So you're in that case, it's you that are being irrational, not the position, because atheism and theism are just positions on God's ontological status. It just literally, is it God's existence or not? So if you believe that gods exist or you believe that gods don't exist, both positions are rational if you can rationalize them. So it's really upon the individual. You can't just say a position is not rational like that. It makes no sense. So I think we're starting off with a really good advantage on that particular debate. Not to give spoilers away, but
I don't want to. Yeah, we're going to be talking about it before, but personal anecdotal evidence of leprechauns in your analogy, that would, even though it's weak evidence, that wouldn't be enough for that you as an individual to make a determination on whether something's rational.
I have I'm a little divergent on that, I guess, because I actually don't have a problem with personal evidence and testimony. Now, obviously, there's a case to be made that if you have personal evidence, then anybody else has personal evidence, and you have to kind of weigh them all. And I kind of agree with that. I don't think that's a bad approach. But as individuals, we only have our abilities to sense things and have quality and experiences. So I've had some weird things happen in my life. I think most people have had some weird things happen that they can't explain. Doesn't mean that supernatural exists. Doesn't mean that there are demons or ghosts or whatever, out of body experiences, lucid dreaming or whatever. It doesn't mean that, but it is evidence that there's probably things that we don't fully understand, obviously, because I think these experiences are absolutely real. I've had them. Nobody can deny that of me. I will die before I ever deny having those experiences because they're experiences, right? But I can't, those are subjective in the case that I cannot show those experiences to anybody else. You can't step into my body and experience those episodes, right? Or those things that I felt, because it is completely subjective. It is isolated to you. It's epistemically removed from you. So I think personal experience is actually good evidence as far as to the individual, but is weak evidence to everybody else. But it's still evidence. I mean, a testimony is evidence. It really is. People say that testimony evidence isn't evidence that's never been to a court case. Of course it is, but it is very weak, right? But it's also predicated on how well you know somebody. Like if you tell me you got a dog, Jim, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I believe you. I don't need any evidence for that. I believe you. You got a dog, But if you tell me aliens, took you up and took you to Mars and anally probed you all night long, well, that might be true. But I mean, that part I might actually believe. I'd be like, and you didn't invite me. But I would have to question that a little bit more, right? And it's not because it's not a matter of, I think that you're dishonest or that I don't trust you on you telling me that you have this experience, but I believe that you interpreted your experience wrong. I believe that I would hold that you had some kind of experience, but what the experience was is much more open to interpretation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before I forget, Tom, I think Tom Jump's still in the chat. I am willing to step out if you want to get someone who knows philosophy for this.
I don't have a problem with Tom. Oh, I think I don't have Tom. Yeah, Tom. If Tom wants to do a debate, yeah, Tom can reach out to me later.
T Jump, if you want to take my place, I think it's day after tomorrow. I can. We can get.
No,
if both of you are cool, I'd rather you be set up for success because I will speak totally colloquially, and I have the habit of conceding too much and forgetting that it's a debate because I'm a seeker of truth. I'm not trying to win. And so often I'll go, man, you have a great point. And if you do that in a formal debate, you just lost.
And what's funny is usually, I mean, we do discussions. I like doing discussions, right? I haven't debated in a very long time. But I want this to actually be more of a debate thing. But it's rare. It's mostly I have discussions. So this is one of those few instances where I think it's going more to be debate style. But if Tom wants to jump in, that's fine.
I would almost welcome him.
I disagree with Tom on a lot of his epistemology, but I got nothing against the guy.
And Richard Carrier, but I think he charges $50 honorarium to appear. I think he really does.
No. I know. I heard it does moratoriums. What do they call? What's it called?
Honorarium.
Honorariums. Yeah, moratoriums. I heard it does honorariums as well. Even for people that know Richard. We both know Richard pretty well. Hell, he wrote 2 blogs about me. Got my position wrong, but whatever. I mean, it's Richard. I mean, that's what I do know about Carrier. Carrier loves to, and I swear to God, I don't know what it is, but he seems to love to straw man people. I don't know why. Every time I've read something from him when it comes to when he's like talking about somebody else, it's like, well, that's not what the person's arguing. That's not what he's saying. He seems to go out of his way to deliberately not apprehend his opponent's point of view. And I'm not the only one that says that, by the way. I've heard. Trust me, when other people have said the exact same thing. So it just seems to be odd. But he's a nice guy. I like Richard. So
I took his 4-week one of his courses that he offers on his website. It was critical thinking for the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty, gosh, damn, I'm not an academic. The reading list, that's all I was doing was reading. First off, I had to go and get a field guide to lies. So I had to go out and buy that book and read that entire thing. And then every day there was reading assignments. But it was good for me. And then I had to complete these objectives. And Richard and I are buds. We're tight. Yeah. We're beyond just acquaintances or fellow content creators. But he went out of it. Well, I did a video series, a review of his course. And so the final, he did not have any hesitation to call me out on every little thing that I got wrong, or that was, there was even one that he called borderline racist, and I had no idea. And it woke me up. But he will not hesitate to call you out on your bullshit. And even as a friend.
Yeah, no, he's pretty direct.
It was a Pew study, 2014 Pew study. And I used it because it showed overwhelmingly in all these majority Muslim countries that were polled. It showed pie charts for each country polled. And do you think it should be death penalty for adultery, right? 57% in this country, 49% in this country. And then I'm going through showing that, okay, Islam Muslims are not dangerous, but the followers of Islam are maybe not majority, but a substantial percentage think dangerous ideas like, death for homosexuality. And he said, well, here's why that polling is skewed. And I thought Pew did their due diligence. I thought the Pew and Quinnipiac and some of these, I was.
Well, I think any poll has an inherent skew to them. I mean, it's just you cannot eliminate all factors. But I think that even just generally, though, in some religions, there's a higher propensity to have these types of radical thoughts. I mean, I don't think anybody could argue against it. You don't need a study to figure that out. And it's not just Islam. I mean, obviously, there are people in the younger creationist community that have advocated, that the government should kill people, that the government should, they want to abdicate their own personal morality and say, look, I don't want to kill a gay person, but it's okay that the government does. I mean, you have the Kent Hovens of the world, the Matt Powells of the world. And by the way, if you haven't watched the interviews I've had with Cindy Lincoln, ex-wife of Kent Hovind, they're amazing. She's wonderful. I talked to her about, I pretty much talk to her like every day now. I would consider her like a friend at this point. She's really nice. I don't know why she's not promoted more. You should have her on her show. I think she should be a great guest for you if you want to have her on.
To be honest, I haven't really followed your stuff much, but now that we're friends, I think I have a lot of
you still remember Kent Hovind, though, right?
Catch up on.
The name's still familiar, right?
Yeah,
you haven't been out of the scene that long where you don't remember Kent Hovind.
No, I'm talking about you. Like I haven't I haven't seen your content in a while.
But she's a really sweet person. But there, like I said, Ken Hovind and Matt Powell, they really do believe that the government should execute gays. So it's not just Islam or anything like that. It's to me, it's more a radicalization. It's more of a mental psychopathy of these people, because there's no way you can tell me a sane person would have those kinds of personal beliefs. They're not sane. They're not rational. They're evil, and I do believe evil exists. I'm a non-believer, but I absolutely believe evil exists.
That's a different topic, but yes,
that's a philosophical topic.
Yeah. We got a lot of live chat to catch up on. First off,
not watching it, but go ahead.
Simon's Funk. Okay, I think this is when we were talking about is personal anecdotal subjective evidence grounds to say something is reasonable, even though they cannot display it or show it to be true.
I've had the weirdest experiences with Ouija boards that I can't explain. Like legit, like with other people and by myself. So it's even though I do believe it's the idiomotive effect, right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I believe it's the idiomotive effect. But the thing is that even knowing that it's the idiomotive effect or believing it's the idiomotive effect, it is still a majorly powerful psychological experience, right? So even though you can be aware of how something works, it still can be very, very mentally affecting. Does
Like
it make
when I hear
sense?
Hallelujah, when I hear that song, it puts me in like almost like I get goose pimples just even saying that song.
Hmm.
Like it does something to me when I
Yeah,
hear this
I believe in
the
spiritual
song.
stuff, and I don't mean
Yeah.
like a metaphysical spiritualism as in like entities. I believe though we do have a spiritual nature, but that's perfectly fine. You could be a naturalist and have to be a spiritualist. Again, these spiritual just means that you have an effect on you that has been caused by something of awe and wonder. Looking at a sunset, and seeing the beauty of the sunset can be a spiritual experience. Listen, for me, music. I think if somebody wants to argue for God, one of the aesthetics is one of the most powerful arguments. Music and the harmonies and the way things are interrelated to mathematics, and people will call that Spinoza's God, right? They call it the God of the philosophers and things of that nature. The awe and the wonder and spectacular harmony of all these different subjects. Some people might call that a God, even though it's not like a metaphysical God as in like Jesus or something like that. But it's still amazing in the beauty of that. I find that to be a very powerful thing. I do call that spiritual. So I have no problem with that word.
Well, yeah, that's got literally 100 different meanings, spiritual.
Yeah, of
But
course.
you're talking more pantheism, non-supernatural, like Spinoza or
I'm not
Carl
talking about
Sagan or
pantheism. Yeah, I'm not
Albert
talking about
Einstein.
pantheism. I'm talking about, I'm talking about the
Yeah.
God of the philosophers. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. I think it was you, someone in the live chat. You were talking about your former guest, and yeah, they are openly like death to gays. Where that is free speech. Hate speech is free speech, people. But guess what? To happen to one of the NIFB churches just down the street from me, the Steadfast Baptist Church. For those of you that don't know, I think it was just a week ago, last Sunday. A bunch of my people from Metroplex Atheists go and protested damn near every Sunday. They went, and guess what was up? It was an eviction notice on this, and the place was shut down.
Good.
So they're gone.
And here's the thing. I'm not full. I'm not a free speech absolutist. I'm close. I would say I'm a strong free speech person, but I'm not quite convinced in absolutism. I know some philosophers that are that I respect an awful lot that are free speech absolutists, but I'm not quite there yet. But I don't necessarily think that advocating for the death of people is free speech, because free speech still has some limitations. You have time, place, and manner that are very important in limiting people's speech. And I think things that advocate violence of that nature, uh, that affects society, I'm going to take some issue with. And again, I understand the need and the want to have free speech, but even our society, free speech is limited, inherently limited, because of time, place, and manner. There's certain things you cannot say at certain times in certain places, and I think that because if you advocate death to people because of a specific belief that they have, or orientation they have, or if they're gay or trans, and like that, you are now across the line that border between free speech and hate speech. And I think that hate speech
Yep.
does have need to have certain consequences for it. And so, yeah, I can't get in that full absolutist yet. I'm not saying there's not arguments for it, but when you're telling me that the government should kill gay people, and you think that's covered under the First Amendment, I'm not convinced of that. I'm
Yeah,
willing to take
that's
it.
a great point.
Look, it's a discussion to be had. Don't get me wrong, right? But
Yeah.
at where I'm at now, and it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. It is. I'm willing to have discussions on it. But right now, I'm in the position that I don't consider that free speech.
It's not
Does that
blatant
make sense?
incitement to violence, like let's all go out
It
and
doesn't have to be.
commit violence. But it is kind of it's illegal. We've ventured into legal territory, and this is where legal
Did
experts. Yeah.
Trump wasn't explicit, but I think he incited violence.
Oh
You don't have
yeah,
to.
that's
You
another
don't have to
good
be
point.
explicit, and that's the thing. You can like what Trump did. I think Trump absolutely incited and rallied his base in order to go storm the Capitol. But he didn't explicitly do it. But whether legally or not, that's it's a different question. Whether he's morally culpable, I think absolutely he's morally culpable. Whether he's legally, maybe a different story. But again, are we talking about legalities here? We're talking about the efficacy of these things to say, oh, I think the government should go kill gays. Obviously, anybody who ethically thinks that's right they can fuck off and die forever. Can I curse? I am gonna anyways, but
Yeah.
whatever.
I dropped an F-bomb in the first 5 minutes, so
Yeah.
we're definitely demonetized already.
So I'm not like here's the thing. I'm not advocating they go die when I say fuck off and die for whatever. I'm not advocating for that, but I just don't care if they do. There's a difference to be had. If they said, look, I don't care if gays die, okay, that's your immoral position. I don't give a shit, whatever. But when you say I think the government should kill gays, you have crossed multiple barriers.
Okay, one more thing in the live chat. Lone Wanderer said something similar. Yeah, it's a very fine line. I hope someone dies. It's almost like when someone threatens you that if you don't change your ways, you're going to burn in hell. That's kind of borderline threat of violence.
No,
By
well,
proxy, at least, right?
it is. Okay. So first of all, if somebody says, like if they don't care if somebody dies like that, I don't care. I'm not the thought priest, please. If somebody wants somebody to die, be my guest. I don't care. I really don't care because that is thought policing. But when you advocate to push an agenda to say I want the government to kill people and I'm actually enabling things to make that happen, I have issue with that.
Yeah.
Right. There's a huge distinction to be made by that, but I don't give a shit what person thinks. I give a shit of how that becomes an action.
I lied to you. Okay, there's one more thing in the live chat. All right, bed hair. I'm going to make this real quick. This is the update. For those of you that don't know, gosh, it's about a week and a half ago. I applied to about 5 different places. Among them, the Ukrainian consulate in Houston, who answers to the New Orleans consulate, and a few other places. And directly, a few days after that, when I didn't get any response, I went directly to the DC Ukrainian embassy. Still haven't heard any response from them, but the Houston Ukrainian consulate finally sent me something back. They sent me a list of PDFs, digitally fillable PDFs. They're basically applications for enlistment, temporary enlistment in the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. It's something like France has, like the French Foreign Legion. There's 16,000 foreign members already. So I'm going to fill out the paperwork. It looks, my suspicions were correct. I am going to have to bring my own deuce gear over, and that's on my own dime. So I can cover it. I just don't want my family to have to suffer that cost. So I might be setting up a GoFundMe, but I'll cover the cost of the body armor, helmet, and LBV, the load bearing vest, if I do go. But I'm going to get the paperwork in. Also, I heard there's a waiting list. So yes, the wheels are still in motion, but it's really slow. I haven't heard anything back from DC, and started Monday morning, bright and early, I'm going to just start making noise, like ringing the phone off the hook and seeing if I can get something official from them. And I don't know what temporary means. Not that I really care. If I'm going to see this through, but I don't want to actually accidentally sign my life away, for 2 to 4 years of conscription. I come back speaking Ukrainian and not.
I don't know who it was, but someone asked me like, hey, can the government even recall you? And I'm like, no, it's up. And they couldn't even with the congressional thing because
no,
you can volunteer
for 4 years. After you get out, there's a 4 years of ISS, inactive, IRR, inactive ready reserves. After that 4-year period, you cannot be called up.
Correct. I had 6 years plus 2 years of that. Okay. So I did 6 years active. Then for 2 years, I was inactive. Right. So it's 8 years total. So pretty much anybody joins the military, it's 8 years. But if you go in for 2, then you have 6 years in that inactive, that you could be called up. But after that, they cannot recall you for any reason. And then I was telling this person, I'm like, why would they want to? What purpose of my specialty in the Navy that is on a ship that was decommissioned, I think in 96 or 95 or 97 or whatever is decommissioned? It's razor blades now. What do I have? I mean, obviously everything I have is like 30 years out of date. It would serve no purpose, so plus I'm 52. So
dude, I'm telling you, my age is definitely a factor, and I'm 90% disabled. I don't know what the hell I'm thinking. And my wife and I have talked about this. Like, she got me thinking, I'm doing this because, okay, I'm a Spanish linguist. I would say, go ahead and say the majority of my time as active duty was fighting the war on drugs, which was futile. And then the other large percentage was going to Iraq, under false pretenses. Whether or not, we did good over there. I believe we did good over there. But the reason we went was false. If I went through Ukraine right now, this would be the very first time in my life that it would be an undoubted just cause.
Yeah, I remember doing Leo ops. We
Yep.
did Leo ops. We had seized and forfeitures and things of that. We had seized drugs and things of that nature when we were off the coast of Mexico doing these law enforcement operations. I think the war on drugs was an abysmal failure. I think it was ill conceived, ill planned, ill executed. Um, I think that now, obviously, decades later, we realize, hey, there's a lot of money in pot. There's a lot of money in marijuana. And it's helping the economies of some of these other states. But yeah, I don't think it. I think it was a lot of billions and trillions of dollars wasted for absolutely nothing on the war on
I don't.
drugs.
Can you read this, Steve, on the screen? I don't know if you're able to, but I don't know if Ox is being sarcastic or not, or just goofy. But is that a position some Americans have? Is that we shouldn't be
I don't
going
agree
over
with
there
that.
to help out?
Yeah, let me tell you why I
I'm a
don't agree
U.S.
with that.
citizen. I'm not active duty military. As far as a right, we don't have the right to go over there and help people in need. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think it means liberty. A right. There's a difference between a right and liberty. But the thing is
Oh
that
yeah.
you have all these different countries that do have operations in other countries. You have the French Foreign Legion. You have Americans have. Well, we're all over the world. I mean, but
Well, we
there's a
accept non-U.S. citizens into our active duty.
yes, of course, absolutely. And
Yeah.
also, the thing also is like, with NATO, the Ukraine, if I remember correctly, didn't want to join NATO, but we have the compacts with certain other countries that if they go to war with them, we have to join them. We have to support them, right? It's compact by compact, right? So, we don't have that compact with Ukraine, but that doesn't mean that an individual can't do
Yes,
that.
we do. I can't pull it up in my mind right now, but if someone in the live chat wants to look it up, I know that the NATO nations made it was part. I forget the name of it. It was right after 1991 at the Soviet Union when Ukraine got its
I don't know what it's
independence.
called. I know it's not
We
part of NATO
yeah,
then. Yeah.
we signed something with them saying we would protect them. It's when Ukraine gave all their nukes to Russia.
Oh
It was
yeah, no, I
during
remember
that
that.
time
Yeah,
frame.
I remember Ukraine gave up their nukes, and there was a
Yeah,
pact they in that, from what I understand or remember, when they gave up their nukes, it was under the concession that Russia would never, or under the impression that Russia would never invade them, and obviously they lied about that.
that's right. Holy Sparkle. I don't know if you're asking me this. I I'm I'm not an expert on the subject. I just want to go and help. And this is going to sound like boasting, but fucking if you send someone with my skill set to go just pass out water, this is going to sound so narcissistic. It would be like sending Mozart to go to an opera just to raise and lower the damn curtain on the stage.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you're military, you're Marine, you know how to fight, you know how to shoot, you know how to military
I
martial
know how
arts. I mean,
I know
so
how bad that sounds. I sound like Ethan Michael now.
no, I
Okay.
mean, but it makes sense though. I mean, but obviously, they need volunteers for a lot of different types of things. But again, I think people have the individual right to go fight whatever they want. However, there is a point. If the people that went over to fight for like ISIS and then renounced their citizenship, stuff like that, they're done. They have no coming back from that.
Yeah. We just derailed. Let's see. What else were we gonna? Let me check real quick. No, he hasn't. He hasn't even responded to me saying I'm still working on it.
Let me
I
let me
guess
ha-
we
let
can
me
go ahead and write William. He's a good guy. We've had him on the
that's fine.
show twice.
let,
This is not
let me
like him.
let me ask you a question before we go back to
Yeah.
the Catholic stuff,
Oh, sure.
because Biden had made a point here, and again, I'm not convinced one way or another yet. I'm still figuring out the nuance of this because it's a very very difficult subject, but a lot of people were afraid Trump was going to start New World War III. Why? Because he's an idiot. To put somebody of his lesser caliber in charge of nuclear weapons has got to be one of the greatest faux pas this country has ever done. That was a scary fucking thought. Not that he could single-handedly do anything, but I don't know how somebody that inept can make those kinds of decisions. But Biden makes a good point. He says if we do send troops or we send anti-missiles, anti-tank or missiles and things of that nature over to the Ukraine, it would basically be like starting World War III. I'm not quite convinced it would be starting World War III. I mean, I think it's a point to be made, but as American, as a superpower, how much involvement can we have with the Ukraine Russia situation? How much can we be without it starting to be a full fledged World War III? Because what people are advocating for, they could construe that as an act of, although they're already at war, but they could construe it as an act of war with us, and then it would be quite literally World War III. So, what do you think the Americans should do?
I lean towards what Biden is direct military involvement. Now, we have been supplying arms to Ukraine from the get-go, way before all this started, right?
Sure,
In
sure,
fact,
yeah,
Trump held up several $1 million worth of aid, military equipment, Stinger missiles, TOW missiles.
yeah. No, we've sent them some stuff. I mean,
But he held up the shipment that was already green-lighted by Congress. He had no right to even hold up the shipment. He was holding it up. That was the perfect phone call with Zelensky, where he was trying to get him
yeah, I
to
remember
say
that.
that, hey, we've got all this stuff I want to send you.
Those were
All you
Tomahawk.
need to do is you don't even have to do to conduct
Javelin. It was javelin missiles. Yeah, wasn't it
javelins,
javelin?
not
Yeah, it was
tows. It was
javelin.
javelins.
Yeah, it wasn't toes. It was
Yeah,
javelin
he told
missiles.
Zelensky, "I don't even need you to do an investigation on the
Right,
corruption in
right,
the 2020 election. I just need you to say you're working on it."
right. And or else I'm not gonna make this go through. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So he held it up. But as far as us directly supporting, yeah, that could cause some. What we're doing right now is, Poland just gave a whole bunch of MiG-29s to Ukraine,
Yeah, I remember
and
that. Yeah,
we just
that just happened. Yeah.
backfilled. We gave Poland the exact same number of F-16s to make up for it. So, but by proxy,
Yeah.
indirectly, we are helping Ukraine.
And by the way, I'm totally that's fine. I think
Yeah,
that's wise, because what can Russia say if these other countries are supporting Ukraine and we kind of like refill them, I have no issue with that. But any direct involvement is problematic. Now, from a moral point of view, I ain't got no problem with that. I don't. I think if America wants to involve themselves directly with Ukraine, I would be 100% behind that. But again, it's you're dealing with somebody who's not of the right mindset. Putin is clearly not the right mindset. He is beyond crossing boundaries. His legacy, whatever it be, is tarnished forever. I think on this in the world stage, he's going to go down as a very, very, very horrible leader, to say the least. I think.
and my expectation just 3 weeks ago, if you would ask me if Russia was still a legitimate superpower, I would have said absolutely. But the way they're performing right now,
Yeah.
all the feedback from the front lines is that they're still using World War II tactics.
Yeah,
And
yeah, they're outdated.
not trained.
They're
They're
not trained
sitting
properly. They
ducks
don't have
on
the supplies.
convoys.
They don't
Yeah.
have the right food supplies. Their MREs are outdated. They don't have the equipment and the necessary means to fix their equipment. They don't have the supply for the oil. It's very, very haphazard.
And many pundits have been saying that the reason for this is um, the oligarchs have gotten so they used to be under the thumb of Putin, but they've gotten so powerful and rich now that they're basically equals with Putin and they have a lot of pull. And the richer you are, the richer you want to get. So it sucks all this military funding to pay off the oligarchs, they make them go from 5 billion to 6 billion or whatever they're worth.
Yeah.
And so the funding for the military, and it's obvious now, there is no funding for military training or equipment, which is a
No,
great
they
thing.
don't have the funding for that. And again, the people are aware of this. He thought he would have the support of the Russian people. They're not behind him. Yeah.
Yes, holy spackle. Landon. I didn't know about that. I thought you said London. But this foreign legion that I'm looking to hook up with, from what I'm seeing on the website, not a single United States citizen has joined up yet out of 16,000 foreigners, which doesn't make sense. I don't see them represented on the website yet. That might be a mistake, but if that's true, how many of these conservative gun nuts that are just chomping at the bit to go fight, where are they? Step up,
Yeah,
go
right.
volunteer. I see Croatia, I see UK. There's tons of Canadians over there right now
You would think the
fighting.
entire South would be over there going, "Yay!"
Yes.
Yeah,
A lot of Croatians, a lot of Canadians, a lot of British. That's mostly what I'm seeing. I did not see a single U.S. citizen. And I can't, I'm old fat. There's some of you guys straight out of, you just came off active duty. I'm not trying to say you should go, but man, I'm feeling a large amount of FOMO right now. Like I'm missing out on being able to do something good for humanity. Anyway,
Let's get back to the Catholic stuff because I don't know
yeah,
how long you want to go, but
I'm
usually
seeing.
an hour and
I
a half.
usually do 90 minutes, but since
Yeah.
our guest of honor is not here, let's just hit an hour. So
Okay.
we're at an hour now. We'll go ahead and just run through these.
Yeah,
Let me
run
let
through
me
them
check
because
one more time.
I got one more thing to do after this. I
All
promised
right.
somebody, and
Okay. Let's see. Um. All right. So I was going to talk about the Lady of Fatima. No, also canonization miracles. Which one do you know more about? Do you know about the story of Our Lady of Fatima? That's
yeah,
something I really,
yeah,
yeah.
where the sun, didn't move,
Danced
and
around the sky. It was in
yeah,
like
mhm,
1927, and the newspapers report on it. There was at least 50,000 witnesses. How would if someone brought that up? I mean, tons of eyewitnesses, which is some good
yes,
evidence.
yes.
Is that a simple mass delusion? The people
Yeah, I
saw
mean,
the Virgin Mary in the sun, and then it danced around.
obviously there could be mass hallucinations, but there could be obviously atmospheric things. Who the hell knows? But my thing is this: if that was the biggest thing that God could come up with to kind of demonstrate this, or lady, like that people have to question all this. It's kind of like the Shroud of Turin, right? This is the best you got. Um, it's just it seems trivial for an all-powerful being to say, "Oh, look, I'm going to make the sun go, stand still and then move around," when we know that people have misinterpreted natural events, right? And we also know that mass hallucination occur. So I think the probability is more likely. And again, you know me, I'm not an atheist, but I do tend to believe that most explanations have a naturalistic cause. This is a simple a priori stuff, right? We've never determined anything to have a supernatural causation, at least again from from a secular point of view, from a a non-believer point of view. There's just nothing we can point to that says, yeah, this is supernatural. Now, theist office is going to say, yeah, things are supernatural, but I'm not a theist. So I think that we can make the argument that from past experience, we've only seen generally naturalistic explanations. Now, when we have something that's not known, when we say, "Oh, look, we don't know what the explanation for this is," obviously you can't fill in that with God because that is by definition God of the gaps. But we can at least make the argument it's probably highly more likely that it has some kind of naturalistic explanation than a supernatural one. I think that's a very sound argument atheists can make.
Yeah, let me read the. It was published memoirs revealed. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, this is too long to read.
I mean,
Okay. Anyway, yeah.
remember the will o' the wisp?
I know. Well, I play Dungeons and Dragons. A will o' the wisp is it's a little ball of light that hangs
Yeah,
out with the fairies
yeah,
and shit in the
yeah.
woods.
And we know that they call marsh gas can do similar things like that. They're natural experiences, but people could attribute them to supernatural causations, even though, we know these things do exist now. There's been mysterious lights in the sky for a long time due to
Oh,
geophysical type
yeah.
things. I don't believe in I don't believe ball lightning exists. I think ball lightning doesn't probably exist, but there might be atmospheric things that are similar. People saw things in the sky that were determined to be sprites and jets that we didn't know. And there's another phenomenon called Steve. Actually, we didn't know these things existed decades ago. But you see certain things in the sky, and you go, "Oh, look! I see these red, things coming out of nowhere. It must be aliens or something. God's painting the sky." So,
Right. Yeah.
but we just didn't know that these phenomena existed at the time.
Canonization miracles. As far as I know, someone in the live chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but it still takes two legitimate miracles to be canonized, become to apply for sainthood. Whether usually you're dead, so it's usually posthumous sainthood.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, and I've read some. I don't have any most
I
of
don't know
you
any
know some of
specifics.
them. Really weak. Oh, that
Yeah,
was a miracle. If anyone's ever read God is Not Dead, Christopher Hitchens talks about the two miracles that got Mother Teresa her sainthood, and
yeah,
one had to do with Polaroid film in bad lighting that looked
yeah.
kind of like the God's sun rays coming through the
Well,
window and
and again, though, whenever you're looking at any kind of that stuff, you have to go back to mediumship. We know without question that mediums and spiritualists used trickery and things of that nature. Not saying that Mother Teresa used trickery, but we know things can be not as they seem. And so, by historical accounting, by a priori's, I would have to say that these things have a much more natural explanation. And by the way, I think it's perfectly fine for an atheist to deny them outright. And here's my reasoning on this, Jim. You remember obviously the J. Foundation, right, with James Randi, right?
yeah, yeah.
And I think how they went about experimentation and things of that nature were brilliant. I really a huge fan of the JREF. So let's take for example dowsing, right? Every time somebody had gone to try to win that $1 million with dowsing, it has failed. Matter of fact, they got to the point where they weren't even going to test it any longer. They were like, this is not even something we're going to bother with. At that point, I think it's absolutely perfectly justifiable to say dowsing does not work. It's not just I don't believe dowsing works. It is dowsing doesn't work. And somebody says, well, how do you know about that one time where it might work? Well, it doesn't matter. You can base your beliefs on prior experience and prior probabilities. The probability is so low of dowsing work to be negligible to not even factoring in my ontology, right? I just say straight out, dowsing is bullshit, you know?
I had a guest on about a month ago, a pagan. The subject of dowsing came up. She believes in all kinds of new age woo-woo, auras, chakras, all this stuff. So we were going down, when we got to dowsing, and I talked about JREF, and she had never heard of James Randi, so I had to explain, the $1 million challenge that never got cashed in on. And
no longer available.
And she goes, oh, dowsing, yeah, and then she came out with all these anecdotes that she knows somebody who
I've done it. I've tried dowsing. Yeah,
I said, well,
effect.
Under laboratory conditions where both sides agree to the terms of the experiment, it's never performed. And she says, I'm going to paraphrase now, it's similar to what they say when when you try to test a God's claim, like intercessory prayer in a laboratory setting. She says it can't be tested because it's kind of like that quantum state where if you observe it's a wave function collapse. So it's basically a wave function collapse. When you try to test supernatural phenomena like this, it's like a wave function collapse where it purposely stops working.
That's called an ad hoc explanation.
That
is really what an ad hoc explanation
I call it
is.
horse shit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't buy into that at all. She's not even going to describe it properly. But yeah, I think that because like I said, psychological factors weigh in when you do the dowsing, it can mess with your head. But the one thing I do think about the experiments that I'm always scared of is that the one time they're going to do like one of these things to show that it doesn't work, and it's just by happenstance they get it right, and then they repeat the experiment, and just by happenstance they get it right again. Now again, the odds are astronomical. We're talking, let's say even if the odds were 1,000,000,000 to 1 things happen all the time. I mean, literally happen all the time. So that one time, like for example, when a psychic gets something right just by mere happenstance, because there's a lot of people that proclaim themselves to be psychic, that one person who gets it right now becomes the poster child for psychic stuff. I'm scared of that happening.
The show is wrapping up now. William just wrote me back, said I guess he ran out, got a new modem, and he's trying to configure it, and he'll be on. I'm just telling him, hey, don't worry, we'll just reschedule because the show's already wrapping up. Wow, he was trying his ass off to get on here. Okay, no so we'll reschedule it. The last one. Why do Catholics they put Mary up? Why do they revere her so much? They put her up there with Jesus. They first off, they say she's sinless too. At some point, someone in the food chain couldn't have been sinless. So why put it on Mary? Mary's parents, obviously,
well, that's what the Immaculate Conception is, right? The Immaculate Conception is that she was sinless, and then was able to bear Jesus.
Okay, but her parents weren't sinless. At some point in the genealogy, there was sin. So it's infinite regress. Like Mary's parents gave birth to her. They are sinful, but she's sinless. Why couldn't they just done that with Jesus? You got Mary and Joseph, sinful, normal humans. You gave birth to a sinless person. Why could it's like they're trying to push it back in not an infinite regress, but they're trying to push the problem back one step.
Yeah, I don't.
I insist that Mary was sinless to give birth to a sinless person. I never understood
and also,
that.
it wasn't. I mean, outside the Catholic Church, isn't Jesus the only person ever lived that would be sinless?
In Catholicism, I think Mary
is too, right? I get that, but in other religions, non-Catholics, they would only hold that Jesus was.
There might be some Orthodox Protestantism that believes it also, but
maybe
something not far, like Lutherans. I would ask a Lutheran; they might think it, but or Episcopal. No, not an Episcopal. They definitely don't. Yeah, so it's definitely just Catholics, but they were the first to come along.
Mhm.
So all these
Well, again,
Protestants that say that's
all
not
these
real
things,
Christianity, well, it's closer
but
to
all
the
these things became over a period of time, right? I mean, even the Catholic Church, they had the Nicene Creed and they had the Apostle Creed, and then so all their doctrine has been just an amalgamation of centuries and centuries of prior, things one upon the other. I mean, have you ever looked at the Catechism for the Church?
the actual catechism?
The actual catechism, the actual document. It is,
No.
it is, it's like a textbook. It is just, I mean, it's a lot of freaking data that priests have to memorize and have to go through years of training to learn this, because there's been so much history and so many different decrees and so many different ways of looking at something in the Catholic Church, where it's a subject unto itself. It is a world unto itself. And personally, and I'm just going to throw it out there, I don't have the time or the patience to learn that shit. I just don't. If my salvation, right, if my stereology has to do with the ability to memorize the entire thousands of year history of the Catholic Church and put it into practice and have a liturgy where I go out and obey these things, yeah, I'm fucked, because I just don't have the time and patience for it. Because when I don't believe it, I believe that the Catholic Church is a harmful church. I'll just state that I do think it is a harmful church, but I don't know why there would be a being or God that bases my eternity on me having to spend so much of my life learning about this massive amount of information for this particular church just to be saved. It doesn't make any sense. It's not, to me, a rational plan,
That's similar to
intellectually
what they're
speaking.
talking about in the live chat. Yeah. Well, it's really the reason why Martin Luther nailed those 95 theses on the front door of the
And I can see
church.
why he did. Like Martin
Yeah.
Luther, he pointed out some stuff, right? On the
Hello
Reformation.
to
He pointed out some
Richard
stuff.
Madsen. Peace to you, brother. I didn't even notice you in there. Nerd Angle, Lazy Cat. This is your all's last chance to ask a question for Steve or I, or both of us, while Steve is doing his final plugs. So, Steve, final thoughts, plugs, upcoming events. I'm sure everyone is anxiously waiting to see, now that the channel that got stolen from you is back, how that's going to look in the future.
I got a lot of stuff. I'm booked till actually I'm scheduling May right now, actually. So we got you and like I said, Craig Reed. We're talking about is atheism irrational. We're talking about sexuality, secularism, and shrooms. I think the day after, and then I think I didn't mean to schedule like a couple days in a row. Just kind of ended up that way. I was trying to do like one a week, or one every week and a half, but I it's got inundated with stuff. I do have a one. Supposedly, I'm going to have one with Gnostic Informant. I was going to have it with Canadian Catholic, but unfortunately, there's been stuff with Canadian Catholic I really don't want to be around, so I've kind of put the kibosh on that. I have a really good episode you might be interested in coming up towards the middle end of March, called on the clergy project, coming out of godless, that I've called
That's
it.
cool.
So yeah, the clergy project. I've been talking to the person that is intricately involved with them, and it's a lot of story and information to be had on that. So I think that's going to be a very, very cool episode. I've got we're going to be going over remember Edgar, the new intelligent design stuff. Remember that?
No.
Oh, you're in
New
for a treat.
intelligent design stuff. Edgar? No.
Oh, he also knows Mr. ID. You don't remember that?
That
Oh,
sounds
we've
familiar.
yeah. So he's come up with a new, powerful, correct scientific explanation for all things, which has been, by the way, rejected by 3 scientific publications. Shocker.
I love how you guys will go and look at all the like Michael Heiser. I didn't know who that guy was like a month ago. I like
Really?
how a lot of content creators like you will go and watch this stuff that no one else wants to, and then give us a report.
Well, Mr. ID, I can't take seriously. I mean, I can't say I take much intelligent design too seriously, but there are some advocates where I at least want to have discussions with him. I mean, Casey Luskin, he'll eventually be on. Stephen Meyer, he'll probably eventually be on. Stephen C. Meyer. Uh, I think the thing with the intelligent design is, look, if they want to argue for it, I'm absolutely fine with that, as long as they don't teach it in school, as long as they don't put it on the same par as evolutionary theory, as long as they don't teach it as an alternative theory. I don't care. They might have something that they could suss out later on. I think it's a fledgling type position right now. I'm not saying, by fiat, I can disprove intelligent design, but I do find it to be very reminiscent of creationism, just repackaged into a more modern form. But I'm willing to have the discussion with them. I have before with, Dr. Ross. I've talked about it with Dr. Rana. And the way they present their intelligent design arguments, it's all different. There's a whole bunch of different design arguments, so it's not one size fits all. But I think that episode is just going to be a fun episode because again, Edgar's a nice guy. Don't get me wrong; he actually really is, and he really does believe this stuff. But it's so bad. It's not even like wrong science. It's just practically wrong. It's not even wrong. It's just I don't even know how to explain how wrong his stuff is. It's just wrong. And then I've got I'm going to have a debate whether hot dogs or sandwiches are going to be fun.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, yeah, I'm like I said, I'm pretty well booked until May. So
I think that's it. The link for those of you that weren't aware, Non Sequitur Show is back, and Steve got it. And if you don't know how he got it back, well, you've got a lot of back. Yeah, there's a lot of episodes to go through, but it just suffice it to say it's back now. I personally am glad. Yes.
I know one person actually is writing a book that I'm actually in. I know no shit. Somebody
there are literal websites out there that are devoted to like timeline by time, timeline since it began, like everything that has gone on.
There's someone who's writing a PhD, and some of it is based upon my work. I'm not front and me. I'm not even joking. Their PhD thesis, because their PhD thesis is on epistemology, artificial intelligence, and some other things.
Well, I can see legal students working on this. I totally could, like civil.
Oh, my lawyer,
civil torts.
Yeah. My lawyer actually has thought seriously about writing this up in one of the legal journals because he's never seen anything like it.
The internet. This is kind of the Wild West as far as there's not a lot of codified civil law in internet situations like this. So it's kind of Wild West.
Right, and that was exactly what he was saying that. He had never run across anything. There's one, I think it was one of his longest cases too. And it's still, technically speaking, the case might be reopened. Just to give you a heads up.
Oh my gosh.
The case might be reopened. We are talking about reopening it. Because he has not fulfilled his obligations. Yeah.
Well, it'd be good for content, I guess.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about the content. Look, if there's a chance he can go to jail, I'm okay with that. Because he already went to jail over it. So if he goes back because he doesn't want to fulfill his obligations as he stipulated by why we dismissed the case, we can remove that dismissal at any time and just start it up as it was.
I was such a huge fan of Kyle Curtis. It's so heartbreaking that he did what he did. I liked the guy. And this is also before I found out drug addiction is rough too, and I think that's what caused him to break into the church. Abuse.
I mean, you can't get around that. He beat up his boyfriend. How do you come back for that? And he submitted false evidence to the court, and yet people still supported this guy. It's like unbelievable.
If you are actively seeking redemption, that's one thing. I can work with that. I'm all about redemption because I have done some stupid things in the past, and if I didn't have a chance to redeem myself, there's no point.
I don't know how you come back from laying hands on a partner. I think
there's nothing you can't come back from. I think if he strove to make total restitution, threw himself at the feet, and did work the rest of his life to try to redeem himself for this, I think he should be afforded the opportunity. But
I don't disagree that people have the right to redemption, but when you constantly, when there's multiple different things and you keep and you outright lie and say, "Oh, I didn't submit false evidence, I didn't lie to the court," and then it comes out you did, and you still lie about it, and it's just like, where's the redemption there? I'm sorry, but I'm not Jesus. I don't have to forgive, and I don't. I stick to my principles. I always have. I always will. There were people that don't agree with me, of course, and there are people that don't understand, but they don't have to. They don't live my fucking life. I live by my word, my principles, and the people that know that are family to me. They're not just friends. They're fucking family to me. People. I know these people in real life that I've met in fucking real. I met you in real life. If I had met you in real life, it puts it on a whole different level than just some internet name on an avatar that I don't even know their real name. Some of them, it's a whole different level.
You don't know how glad I am that the air is clear between us, Steve.
I gotta admit, I had fun with you. We had a good time.
We had a tight bond. It broke my heart that there was a rift. I'm glad it's different now. I don't really want to talk more about it, but I'm glad we're friends again. Cool. And anyone that says tries to speculate on why, they
don't have to know the details.
They don't need to know.
That's us.
Yes, it's between me and you anyway.
Yeah. And I appreciate all you do, and I hope that you don't go over there, but I can understand why you would want to. I understand it's your decision, and I wouldn't want to influence it. But if you do
I
go
don't
over
think
there, I just wish you the best and be
I don't
safe.
think I finished my thought on that. My wife and I were talking, and she brought up a good point that my disability, my retirement. If I snuff it over there, she's out $4,500 a month, and it would be very selfish of me to go over there and snuff it. And if
Mhm.
I'm going to help out people, she's saying, "Why don't you just stay here and help out us? Because you're risking your
I mean,
neck over
she
there."
has a point, and I think
And
she's
forty
look.
five hundred bucks a month isn't a lot. It's not much. It's not nothing to sneeze at.
I'm not going to try to influence you in any way, shape, or form, but I think your priority obviously would be more to your family than to the.
I
I
got
mean,
a
I
lot of
think
thinking to do. Yeah.
I get it. I understand the need and want. Look, military people don't think the same as other people. I mean, we
No.
both know this, right? I understand God and country, and I mean God in the way, not of a special being, but I mean it is the point of you are fighting for something that you want to give to other people, because when you're fighting for other
There's
people's rights, you're willing to give up your life for that. When we join the military, we know it's going to happen. I spent 3 tours in the Gulf War, like literally off the coast of Kuwait. We had seen action. We were in combat. We had combat pay. It wasn't boots on the ground, and I'm not trying to compare it to boots on the ground, but it doesn't matter whether you're fighting in Fallujah or you're sitting there in full flash gear waiting for a fucking missile to hit you. It's a scary feeling. It's a scary fucking feeling that people don't know what that's like. When you're sitting in general quarters, you have full flash gear on. And I don't know if you had flash gear in the Marines, but when you're sitting there and you're sweating to death, you've been up for 24 fucking hours.
we called it
You
MUP gear, I think is what you're referring to. It's a mission oriented
it's
protective gear.
you get burned if there's is like a
Oh,
explosion, fire, or
ours
something
is
like
for
that.
nuclear, biological,
And that's fine too. This
radiological.
isn't as heavy as a
Yeah,
CBR suit, but
yeah.
you're announced. They have fighters coming in, and the fanning system's on full auto, which means if they come in within a 2-mile range, they're going to be shot down. But they're coming in to launch a missile against the aircraft carrier you're defending. Yeah, it sucks, but you know what you're doing when you're thinking about that. This is what I signed up for. This I have to still do my fucking job, and you do it. That's what being in the military is.
Often I'm asked, basically, why are you even thinking about doing this? I can't. If you're not the warrior class, we're the smallest social class in the country. We're basically 1% of the population. If
Mm.
you're not in the warrior class, you have no way of it's like asking, I've never ridden a Harley Davidson. I'm not in that culture, but I think it's similar. I think people that in a motorcycle club and the Harley Davidsons, and it becomes something. If you they always say, if you're not part of us, you will never get it. You'll just
Yeah.
won't get it. If you're not a warrior, I can't explain to you. I can offer you this. Those of you that want to try to get inside the mind of a warrior and our code, it's by Joe Himes.
It's
It's
culture
an
shock.
older book. It's a short book. It's called Zen in the Martial Arts, and it's not about martial arts. Think 9 levels higher, but read Zen in the Martial Arts, and that's the best book for trying to get inside the head of a warrior.
I think it's going to be a culture shock to a lot of people. I mean, like you,
Yeah.
you did martial arts, but I boxed a little bit in late high school, and then obviously in the Navy. One of the ways you get out your aggressions is boxing, right?
Mhm.
And also
Smokers.
you do. I mean, there are fights that break out. I've been in military fights. I mean, it does happen. Bar fights. I mean, I got in a fight with my best friend, and we beat the crap out of each other on the mess deck. In the middle of the night. The next day, he asked me to be his best man at his wedding, and I was. I'm not even fucking with you. So this is the
That
military
is awesome.
mindset. Yeah, and I still talk to him to this day.
That is so cool.
So
I
yeah,
could totally see that.
yeah.
Okay, so the link to the non sequitur show is in the description section. Steve, if there's any other links you want me to add, I'll do it post.
You can put my personal channel, because I'm just doing mostly philosophy on my personal channel recently.
Okay. I'll add that right after this.
You know how to
And
find it.
we're ending early, and I apologize. William Albrecht had some technical issues, but we are looking to get him. I'm going to look to reschedule him, and I still want to have this conversation with him. What's the other thing? I think it's day after tomorrow. I'm going to be on Steve's show, non sequitur, 2-on-2 debate, and I'm totally going to go in cold, unprepared. So, yeah, that should be fun. All right, guys, that will do it. I'll see you all next time.